Guys, this is a wild footage. Allegedly, the sniper that was in the Navy SEALs that took the shot that took out Osama Bin Laden speaks about the Trump failed assassination, and the caption says that he believes it's an inside job. I haven't seen this video. I want to know why he says such a thing, if he even does. I haven't seen this clip, but that's what the caption says. What about it? Because even Alex Jones said that he saw people online reading that they believe there was 2 shooters that day, 2 different snipers due to angles. I'm not too sure about that theory as well. That's something that we're going to check out after this one. But right now, I want to know the man that was an ex-Navy SEAL sniper himself, also held very high for taking out one of the biggest terrorists of the modern age era.
We thought we might never know their identities, but tonight, 3.5 years later, are we finally learning the identity of the man who pulled the trigger? ABC's chief global affairs correspondent, Martha Raddatz, tonight.
The story has been dramatized time and again, but few thought the real-life SEAL who killed bin Laden would ever be named.
The American people do not see their work nor know their names.
But this is Rob O'Neill, who told the Washington Post he fired the fatal shots. O'Neill, who now garners speaking fees telling tales from his time as a Navy SEAL, is a decorated veteran. O'Neill had told his story anonymously in Esquire magazine nearly 2 years ago, describing how he confronted bin Laden in his bedroom, firing twice to the forehead after he said the SEAL who was ahead of him fired and missed.
Is saying that he feels like this was an inside job. Let's see what he has to say. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment down below, share your thoughts. Have you guys seen this, or have you seen any other footage or any other clip that I should watch that's a little suspicious of what happened that day on the assassination attempt to Trump? Let me know down below. Paste any links. Not only do we gotta thank him for his service, but we wanted to give out his name. We called him a Navy SEAL. He's more than that. He's a former Navy SEAL named Rob O'Neill.
You go out to at least 500 meters and you're looking at 360 degrees. And certainly any potential position elevated with a line of sight to the principal is way, way out of line. And a toddler could see that. Whomever was on whatever elevated position that close to the principal, it doesn't make sense to me. And I love to be on both sides and not be a conspiracy theorist, but this is not real. It's got to be inside. Yeah. There's no way that dude climbed up. There's no way that a deputy climbed up and saw him and backed down and then he took quick. It's just... This doesn't pass a smell test, but it just fits in what the left is doing right now with what the communists do. Jail your opponents, you don't like your opponents, silence your opponents, then shoot your opponents.
I look at all of these things and I look...
Wow, and when he said the left as well, so I'm assuming he's a Republican or stands with the Republican side. This is always what drives me crazy, though. Law enforcement, snipers, everybody's right here protecting this building. But this position right here, that's a direct shot as well, no one was on top of, no one was securing this building. It just doesn't make no sense to me. That's the part that got me just going crazy. That's like, why? Why would they just leave this building unprotected? No Secret Service snipers on the roof. Why wouldn't there be a roof sniper there if there's a roof sniper here to have both angles? That's the part that just drives me crazy.
Got different videos where an assailant will pull a firearm on a law enforcement officer, and the first thing they do is they immediately pull and draw and mitigate the threat and the risk. I ask why the local law enforcement officer did not do so. The other thing is that when you set up an advanced team, I keep hearing this about the perimeter elements. Yeah. The perimeter is actually established by your threats that are in the area. So if I don't have any threats outside of 100 yards, okay, fine, I can cordon off a certain area. But if I have a building 160 yards perfectly adjacent to the stage, that's an obvious threat, especially with an elevated position that has overwatch. Mm-hmm. That's a sniper's paradise. And, we talk about Eagle's Nest. You also have, which no one talks about, but the water tower.
So what I'm hearing from you is it's not a failure on the ground for sure, but 100%. Also a failure in advance?
I think it's a failure in advance. I think it's a failure to have the counter snipers to be able to establish their range fit and their sketch maps.
I also heard, we've also learned that local snipers were stationed inside the building.
Inside the building that he was in?
I haven't heard that piece of it yet, but that doesn't necessarily make sense unless they were actually in a window which was backed off, because a lot of times you'll get yourself in there. Sometimes you expose your rifle in a way to try and do a force protection or a show of force that actually stops things. Others are actually more tactical where they'll sit back a little bit, but a sniper for the law enforcement is only trained to shoot about 75 yards, unlike your counter sniper teams that are on set. But here's my problem. In having done this for so long, they always say the adage of ignorance is bliss, and I think that's true. I've done thousands of advances. I've done thousands of counter-sniper operations with our teams in Iraq and Afghanistan, etc. The amount of negligence, the amount of mistakes that was made here, I have a very difficult time not leaning myself towards this was intentional as opposed to fecklessness.
Well, wait, talk to me about that. I actually heard you say this the day after, which I wanted to ask you about. What do you mean intentional? I mean an intentional failure on the part of...
No, I wouldn't say an intentional failure on the part of, but I gotta just, I sit here and I scratch my head, and you don't want to be the conspiracist, you don't want to be the person.
I'm telling you, because that's what it's leaning toward.
No, I know, and that's the issue, is that you walk this fine balance of, you're not trying to be a conspiracist, but you look at it and you go, how could this have gone so...
But it's one thing if someone on the street says it. It's not, you, Corey Mills, member of Congress, former sniper, you saying it, it makes my...
I was thinking the same thing. If we say it on a channel, we don't really know much about the insides of a sniper, nor do we know the inside of the Secret Service and how they take over buildings. Not only is he part of Congress, he also served as a sniper, it sounds like, for our U.S. military, which is crazy to hear him say that. It's just making no sense. Also, Ryan O'Neal, the former Navy SEAL, also saying it makes no sense. Those are people that have been around missions like that, people that have to protect certain people. They're trained for all this. So if it's not making sense to them, that's when I get nervous.
Eyebrows go up. When you say you're walking the line on this, intentional what?
It almost seems to me, I think that an investigation is necessary at this point within Congress, not just the FBI, not just others. I look back at it and I'm thinking, all right, for an individual, if you looked at the escalations and how they are trying to approach him, let's just say that it was like, okay, first we want to censor and silence you, then we want to indict and imprison you. Now we're attempting to kill you and take you
Whoa. Let's slow down.
Please.
Wow, so that's what also Rob O'Neal said. Remember, jail you, then we want to silence you, and then they want to take you up.
I'm hearing two things from you. I don't want to jump ahead of things, but I'm also hearing you jumping ahead of things.
Well, actually, I'm just looking at all the different possible capabilities. One of the things as a military member, one of the things as a person who's running the special operations communities before, one of the people who's actually done this is that you look at all potential analysis, right?
Donald Trump and his team have said,
no, I agree.
Dial it back. Do not blame this on Joe Biden.
Oh, well, actually, I didn't say Joe Biden, to be completely
Who's the
clear.
they then? Let's be very specific.
Well, that's what the investigations do. Was it local law enforcement that had made the mistakes, or was there something to it? Was there other types of things that we need to be analyzing or looking at and providing analysis? My point is that when something's so significant, you're talking about something that hasn't happened in decades, right?
I totally...
But my point is this. From a perspective of someone who's actually conducted these are not difficult advances. This is not like I'm putting together a stage placement and a tight shot. This is about looking at your surroundings. What is my green, yellow, and red route, which is your routes out in case? What is my actual elements that I need to be looking at as far as mitigating threats or risks or increased levels? Where's my range fan for the sniper that says, okay, here's my 100, my 200, my sketch. Here's an area where someone could shoot. Because here's my thing.
So you're
Let's
saying,
just say it's a Royce element.
You're saying this is so basic that how big the screw up was, that's what's leading your brain down this road?
That's what I'm saying. It's just how big the screw up was. Like, I get it if something small happened, or hey, by the time they're trying to run up the building or run across, they had to shoot, but he shot a quick one off and they were happened to be near the back of the building. I don't know. I'm trying to make it make sense to me. It just makes no sense to me on why that building especially was left blank, and that's the one he got on.
Right, in a way. But because here's the other thing. Let's just say it's a resource.
Tom Emmer was just on with me, and he said very specifically to me, I wrote it down, he said very clearly, it is too early to be talking about who is at fault and who is responsible.
That's why an investigation is necessary.
Is it not dangerous? Is it not reckless to even be throwing around the word intentionally?
So to question things as we do an investigation is recklessness, because at that point, then should we never question anything? My point is this.
I'm not trying to be PC. My point is, in the political environment that we are in.
What would it have taken, right? Let's just say that resources was limited. Let's go with that as a reasoning. So how many times have you seen where they just put a police car inside of a parking lot with not an officer in it and just leave the lights on as a deterrent? Why couldn't that have been a simple thing that was placed in? Why couldn't we have said to the owner of the actual ATR company, hey, look, we don't want to disrupt your business, but we also want to make sure your parking lot is clear of people trying to park in there for the rally. Why don't we place an officer there? My point is that this was too easy of a solution. And when I think about 160
I'm just so uncomfortable with even having
I'm uncomfortable with having to say it. Trust me, my whole point is that I would like to look at this and say, where was the mistake made?
Remember, this is CNN. This isn't Fox. If this was Fox, they would have probably definitely entertained this conversation. This is CNN.
How can we correct it in the future? Why was this actually done? But I think that this does warrant a J13 type commission where we can actually look at it and say, let's investigate and find out why this happened so it doesn't happen to anyone. This is not about a political thing. This is about we had an attempt to assassinate a president. We really need to understand what a serious matter this is. And this was a milliseconds or millimeter difference between this being an attempt and this being an assassination. And I can tell you, at 160 yards, okay, just to give you an idea, your off-the-shelf rifle shoots what they call 1 minute of angle at every 100-yard line. So at 100, it's 1 inch. 202 inches, etc. So now you're talking about 1.6-inch grouping capability of a rifle off a manufacturing line. Your average human being, because we used to do this in understanding sniper training, you're 20 inches shoulder to shoulder, 40 inches head to waist, and you're 6x8 in your average head size. These are kind of the dimensions that you look at as an average. You're talking about a 1.6-inch grouping for multiple shots on a basic rifle. We're blessed, and I do believe in divine intervention, so I am a person of faith. I can't explain, one, I hope that it was a corrugated roof and maybe he slipped off on one of the edges of the corrugated roof or he was rushed, but the whole thing I think just needs to have a better explanation so that the American people and everyone can feel comfortable.
And I think that's why people are saying pump the brakes, because we've seen conspiracy theories, honestly, on the right and the left. I just had Donny O'Sullivan on, that it's already going like wildfire. This is a kind of political environment that they're saying it's too hot and people are jumping to too many conclusions.
Well,
that's why I am so uncomfortable.
As a military, remember, one of the things that we do is we what if scenario everything in the world, right? That's
I know, but I don't know. I'm just saying, if it's the what if that you talk about maybe in an investigation, and the what if that you are presenting on live television. I don't know. It's just.
Well, so listen, I'm a public official.
Yes.
Anything that I do, anything that I say in the public. I don't try and hide it in private. I think that the American people need transparency, accountability, and accessibility to the elected officials, not to try and hide behind what we want to look at. And I also think that if the American people know that we're questioning these things as well, it puts them at rest to at least know, why aren't they at least looking into this? Why? We should look at every single situation which is of this significance. We should look at it from multiple angles to ensure that nothing is left out, nothing could be potentially claimed as being covered up. Yeah. We need to have more transparency to the American people, and I think that's what everyone deserves.
But a full investigation.
Full investigation.
Before anyone
that's right.
points at fault.
That's exactly right. And that's why I say I have not made an accusation of something. I just want to make sure we're covering our bases to ensure that we get a proper investigation at all levels to ensure this doesn't happen again and that our president can be safe.
Congressman, thank you for coming in. Thank you very much. John, back to you.
It looked like she regret calling him in. It looked like she regret calling him in for the conversation. But this is crazy. Has there ever been an assassination attempt on a president that we've publicly known since I've been alive? No, not that I know. I know I've been told about the Reagan one. For those that haven't seen it, let's check out that clip real quick.
Henry, he puts you here and then he runs around with a return. President Reagan! Back up! Get him out! 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 Get the ambulance!
Bro, they got the Uzis on deck. This is crazy. This is like a Scarface film.
All right, stay back! Get him back! Get the ambulance! Breathe! I got him!
As you guys know, Reagan survived, but this is just another incident that's happened previously in the past. Not in the majority of our lifetime. We haven't seen anything like this. Again, the craziest thing we've probably seen in our lifetime was a size 10.5 shoe get thrown at George Bush. That was probably the craziest thing I've ever seen when it came to a president.
وجنود الولايات المتحدة والمدنيين فإننا نقترب كثيرا من هذه النهاية. شكرا جزيلا.
To the many traditions of openness and democracy that have marked the history of this city, America missed me.
That was a balloon that popped that day, but it was just ironic because that was 2 months after he was shot in the video that we just saw, and he survived. So that's why he played off with the joke, missed me, and kept it going as he kept raiding. This is what America stands by. This is the force that we've seen America stand with. Strong, confident presidents, even when they go through triumph or they go through terrible things, they stand up and they still show the power. When we saw Trump get popped in his ear and put his fist up and then come out and explain the story after a couple of days, even though he was emotional, that's what we've seen our presidents do time and time and time again.
As you already know, the assassin's bullet came within a quarter of an inch of taking my life. So many people have asked me, what happened? Tell us what happened, please. And therefore, I will tell you exactly what happened. And you'll never hear it from me a second time because it's actually too painful to tell. It was a warm, beautiful day in the early evening in Butler Township in the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Music was loudly playing, and the campaign was doing really well. I went to the stage and the crowd was cheering wildly. Everybody was happy. I began speaking very strongly, powerfully, and happily because I was discussing the great job my administration did on immigration at the southern border. We were very proud of it. Behind me and to the right was a large screen that was displaying a chart of border crossings under my leadership. The numbers were absolutely amazing. In order to see the chart, I started to, like this, turn to my right and was ready to begin a little bit further turn, which I'm very lucky I didn't do, when I heard a loud whizzing sound and felt something hit me really, really hard on my right ear. I said to myself, wow, what was that? It can only be a bullet. And moved my right hand to my ear, brought it down. My hand was covered with blood, just absolutely blood all over the place. I immediately knew it was very serious, that we were under attack, and in one movement proceeded to drop to the ground. Bullets were continuing to fly as very brave Secret Service agents rushed to the stage, and they really did. They rushed to the stage. These are great people, at great risk, I will tell you, and pounced on top of me so that I would be protected. There was blood pouring everywhere, and yet, in a certain way, I felt very safe because I had God on my side. I felt that. The amazing thing is that prior to the shot, if I had not moved my head at that very last instant, the assassin's bullet would have perfectly hit its mark, and I would not be here tonight. We would not be together. The most incredible aspect of what took place on that terrible evening in the fading sun was actually seen later. In almost all cases, as you probably know, and when even a single bullet is fired, just a single bullet, and we had many bullets that were being fired.
What do you guys think about all this? Do you think it could be an inside job? We don't know anything. Most of us just want to see, because we're curious as Americans, of how safe we really are. I just hope, like he said, a full investigation is done to prevent this to either side in the future. Prevent this from either side. I wouldn't want neither side to get hurt. Just again, they're representing the country, and other countries are seeing what's happening here. If it's so easy for a kid to go climb on a roof and do something like that, what would a trained military spy do from one of these other countries? That's what I start thinking. Subscribe to the channel, comment down below. Please share your thoughts.